Let's start, right? Well, formal introduction. Hi everyone, I'm Boris. Welcome to the webinar Mastering Expense Management in the Trades. I'll be your host for this session. Before we dive in, as you probably know, today is April's Fool, and I tried coming up with a clever joke to open this webinar. I even asked ChatGPT to help me out, but it told me that my professional reputation wasn't something to joke about. And that's exactly why I prefer Genius Answering, because Jessica is better and less vicious. Now, speaking about professional reputation, let me quickly introduce our experts, Mr. Strick Tudor, EVP of Revenue at Workies, and Ori Tepper, our FinTech Product Manager. Hi, thank you both for joining me.
Thanks, Boris.
So in today's webinar, we'll cover the current challenges in expense management for field service businesses, best practices for overcoming these challenges, available expense management tools, specifically how Workies can help, and we'll wrap up with a Q&A session where you can ask your questions. As I mentioned previously, you have this questions icon in the bottom bar. You can feel free to add your questions during the session. We'll go over it towards the end. Let's get started by understanding the core problem many of you are facing with this statement. Expense chaos is weighing down your business. I know it's big, bombarding, but let's talk a bit about it. So first of all, Orit, how do our customers handle expenses today?
So that's a great question. I think it really aligns with what, your quote, because a few months ago, we were hearing a lot about these pains from our users, the time spent, the manual work. And we set off and set out a survey with more than 130 businesses who answered to understand, what is expense management for them? How do they handle it? Who's handling it? What are their challenges? And that was our bottom, our conclusion, right? What you just said, the chaos of it. So first thing, out of the businesses that responded, we found out that over 50% of cases, it's the company owner that's taking on the expenses at the end of the month, that's sitting down and organizing everything, organizing all the money spent, trying to collect the receipts, tracking who did what and when and where. And in another 45% of cases, it's a bookkeeper, either internal or external with the company. And in some cases, there's just no expense tracking, no one really on it. And those are the companies that we were even more concerned for, because you really had blind spots there. That's in terms of who was actually tracking. When we asked them what the biggest challenges were, we saw across the board that a lot, in 15%, almost in all these buckets, spoke about associating the expenses to the job. So who's made the expense, why, for what job, right? To kind of understand the P&L of that job, tracking the expenses and receipts in real time. So we heard about customers who were losing receipts, who didn't understand, or receipts were kind of crumpled up, and basically if you lose a receipt at the end of the day, you can't submit it as a tax deductible. You have problems with reimbursements to your team. That whole headache that goes around, knowing where your money was spent and by who, and what you need to do about it. And then another 14% talked about just the pains of the integrations with, their system. They're integrating the expenses with another system outside of Workies, and when there was technical glitches, or if expenses were coming out of different systems and they weren't integrated, it was just a huge mess. And we asked them, where are you tracking these expenses? So in 60% of cases, businesses were using QuickBooks, and we integrate with QuickBooks, right, end to end. But still, we saw that it wasn't seamless, because half your business is run in, your CRM, and the other half is in QuickBooks. And it doesn't always align the way you want it to, and it doesn't always show you the full picture. So you have your accountant and your bookkeeper are kind of having to track, the job in one place, who was on the job, what notes about the expense, right, were on the job in one place, and then they go to QuickBooks and have to track everything there. Another 25% reported that they were just doing everything manually, offline, so kind of spreadsheets and paper. And actually that goes to what we found, that in 50% of cases in general, when we spoke to technicians were just recording their personal expenses and their company expenses with pen and paper, right? So we see a lot of manual processes in the trades. And again, more than 6% weren't tracking it. So they didn't have any kind of spreadsheet or accounting software. And they didn't really know to say where their money was going.
So it's interesting to see that over 60% are using accounting software, but many are still managing expense manually. Strik, can you elaborate on why expense management is such a significant challenge for field service businesses?
Yeah, absolutely, Boris. Yeah, I'll kind of double click on a few things that Arit mentioned there. But for service pros, paid invoices, speed to receipt of that income, and then control over dispute management, these are all key concerns across the board for most of today's service providers. And as their business grows, these challenges only multiply and actually create, in some cases, risk and exposure for a business if processes and systems are not put into place. So one of the bigger challenges not previously mentioned is how timely and secure payments and insight into both cash in and cash out, whether it's anything from fuel purchases to incoming invoice payments, is how that actually creates a real mirror for the business in terms of the health of the business. And if used effectively, that mirror helps to drive really important business decisions over time, especially as businesses scale, no question.
And what is the impact?
So yeah, kind of back to the previous comment about using revenue data and truly understanding what's happening with your P&L statement. It's really the only way a business owner can effectively drive important business decisions. So there's so many important activities that businesses must navigate on a daily basis, and it's a myriad of different things. Managing technicians and dispatch boards in a way that prioritizes revenue opportunities, converting at the top of the funnel, and then all the other things, hiring, recruiting, really the list is endless. In the worst case example, these challenges can pile up and create cash flow concerns for the business if they don't have insights to exactly what's going on with their available cash. Knowing your numbers is key to building a successful business. And we're probably all familiar with the saying of how important it is for strong business owners to find a way to constantly kind of work on their business as opposed to being too deep in the trenches and running their business, and knowing those numbers and KPIs, and then creating roles and permissions and kind of charters for different members of their team to help them to not live in the trenches day in, day out, but to really think about how they work, on their business with that mirror of insights into what's happening with their revenue and their expenses to make those important business decisions. And we'll go a little bit deeper here, but those are some quick thoughts there.
Cool, thanks. And amen to that. So now that we understand the challenges, let's shift to solutions. I'll read back to you. What are some of the best practices for expense management in field service businesses? What should our attendees be aiming for?
Yeah. So when we spoke to businesses that really, were organized and had the things together, had a clear idea of what they wanted and where they were going back to their KPIs, and there was a few recurring themes that we listed here. So one is companies that had a clear company policy, right, with their team, just had better relationships, had better sort of expectation setting, and had less spend, right, and less uncontrolled spend. So at the end of the day, money saved, had better practices, had more oversight. So when I say company policy, it means understanding from the get-go, having an idea of what you expect your spend to be each month, okay, on what, and then even by like on the person level, meaning if this is, for example, someone in the field, how much on what do you think that they should be able to spend money on, right? For the company, does it cover just inventory or gas, or just the gas pumps? Okay, does it cover food on the way, parking, etc.? Like even I would say even like repairs, like car repairs and whatnot. You have a whole range, but what is your company policy, right? Someone in the field, someone in the office, your marketing person. what can they spend on? When can they spend it? Meaning, can they spend it in the middle of the week? Can they spend it only on like, can they spend on the weekends? Only when they're on the jobs, right? Understanding how much they can spend. So each person is different. We don't want to see that everyone is in the same bucket. So where even is it certain, do you have a deal with Home Depot or with Lowe's and you only spend there, for example, or only with Shell or something? So understanding where the spend is happening, when it's happening, who is spending, how much can that person spend, and aligning with your staff to begin with in setting expectations just sets you up for success, right? You don't need to trust. It's like less of a trust issue after that. So that's number one. Two is always having complete visibility, right, into every dollar spent. Meaning you want to know where your money went at the end of the day, month over a month. Are you spending more? Are you spending less? On what categories? Who's spending what? Where they're spending it? So just the full picture, so you understand, and you have that trust. And at the end of the day, your team member knows that you can see and you understand where the money's going, so that they feel more compelled to comply. And then you want, obviously, we always strive for 0 errors. And there's a lot of errors when you do things manually. When you have someone who's trying to organize the data, collect all the receipts, loses some of the receipts, isn't really sure on what job something was spent, who spent it, right? Where did that receipt come from? Doesn't really know it's the right category of spend. You have a million things that can go wrong when trying to organize these things, and 0 error expense reporting is like the ultimate, obviously, holy grail of just eliminating that human error, and also that delayed, right? Usually we think of expenses, we handle expenses at the end of the month, when we kind of wrap up our books and we deal with reimbursements. Obviously, these things are super sensitive. So when we do things in real time and we do things earlier, you have less room for spend, but most people don't work like that. Sorry, you have less room for error, but most people don't work like that, right? We do things when we have to. And that goes to the last point, which is this concept of pre-accounting. So we always look again at accounting, at bookkeeping, at something that we deal with at the end of the month or during tax season, where we had to align our books and we have to make sure that we've done all of the work. So, right, pre-accounting, it means that we've organized all of our expenses ahead of time, that we've collected, sorted, organized exactly which receipts to which jobs. You would categorize, sort through the bank statements. All of that work doesn't have to be done at the end. It doesn't actually have to be done manually either. It can be done automatically. It can be done as expenses happen in real time. Ideally, you don't come to your bookkeeper, with a pile of receipts, and a bunch of and a CSV of your jobs, but you come at the end of the month with something more clear and say, this is where the money went. This is where all of my business expenses went. And then it's really easy to go in short on that. We actually did, when we looked at our average businesses of let's say 5 to 7 people, we saw that people were spending on average of 8 to 9 hours on bookkeeping when you're talking about all of these kind of steps that you need to do. And it's even more, it goes up to 15 hours easily for a larger team. So the pre-accounting could just shave a lot of that time off.
So knowing your company policy, complete visibility, 0 error pre-accounting, it's something I think all of us can memorize in a way, or even write it in front of your desk, and then it will help you set the right mood, right? So let's get even more specific about solutions. Can you walk us through how Workiz specifically helps with these issues?
Yeah. So when we set out on Workiz, when we understood the problem and how sort of painful it was for our customers, we try to think, how can we transform our solution to address these pains? In Workiz in general, our motto is automate everything with a wrench. Okay, and so that's what we try to do. Basically, we have what's called a Workiz card, which we'll talk about in a second, and it's an expense card. It's different than your regular card, and it allows you to set up these company policies in advance. It allows you to automate. And when you do everything from your CRM, going back to what we talked about, with 60% of people, of businesses using a second system and 15% expressing how painful that was when those aren't aligned. When you have everything in one place, you have less room for error, right? You have one source of truth that you need to look at, so that the time spent is just really reduced, and it's clear because everything's all there. And so we were thinking of, how do we get this all into like one integrated solution that really gives you like a more comprehensive tabs on everything. And so if we think of really how Workies can help our businesses, first thing, the expense card that we offer, it's not a Visa, it's not a debit, it's not an Amex or a Ramp, it's different. It's an expense card, which means it gives you a credit limit. So based on your business volume, you would get a limit that helps you with your cash flow every month, meaning you get the money up front. And you can give out unlimited cards. So you can give out a specific card to each person on your team with smart controls. So you can say, right, this is my field tech worker, and he needs to only be able to pay at a certain store. He needs to get $100 a week, right, or $50 a day, whatever it is. You can say this card, for example, is only a gas card, only for Shell. You really can go into like these like nitty details when I talk about like the company policy. It can be really clear, and it's not just verbal anymore. You can really just set up the card so there's no room to fail, right? If they try to swipe the card and it's outside of their policy, it'll be declined and you'll know about it. So the smart controls, again, the idea that you can give any unlimited amount of cards for your team members, and each one for their needs, and there's no reimbursement needed. So part of the headache that we were hearing from customers is like they took the expenses. They had to see if it's justified. If it's justified, they need to provide a reimbursement. You don't need to do that when it's on your card, right? And you don't need to worry about it when you have full control. So that's the first point. The second point is that what we call, high level, like effortless tracking and insights. And I say that because as the business owner, everything's always in front of your face. Meaning you open Workies in the web, you have an expense report, you open on your phone 24/7, it's with you. You always know where your money's going. You know who's spending, where they're spending, why they're spending, right? You have the receipts, everything's there. And there's also two sides to this. So as a business owner, as someone with higher levels, you see the full picture. At the end of the day, at the technician, for example, or someone with a lower user level, they only see and can edit their expenses. So you have automatic tracking. Anywhere you are, we send out a push notification every time a card is used. So everything's collected in real time, all the context. What job was it for? Who spent it? Where's the receipt? For what? For kind of like giving it a title, a description. You know all that because we're asking it in real time. So someone can come to you at the end of the month and say, I'm not sure where this went. And we always show you spend insight. So it's really easy to track, like visually, who are your top spenders? What are your top spend categories? Okay. Anything here, you can filter and see who has a receipt, who doesn't have a receipt, for what categories. So everything's really easy and in front of your face always, going back to full visibility. And then, the great part, if we look at when we said 50% of the time, it's the owner that's spending easily 7 to 9 hours, if not more, with dealing with their expenses at the end of the day. And here we're telling the owner, here's 2 days that we just kind of freed up, right? Because it's automatically recorded for you. I was speaking a few days ago to someone from Voda, and she just said, yeah, I don't need to do anything. I just download my CSV at the end of the month and I give it to my bookkeeper, and voila, like these are my company expenses. Okay. Yeah. So, and it syncs with QuickBooks. There's no real need for a manual review because you've already put in the controls to begin with. less room for errors, everything's automatic, no lost receipts, right? So that's the nice part about it.
So let's like we want to say, let's show and don't tell. Let's see how it looks within Workies. Can you like walk us through about what we're seeing here?
Yeah, sure. So this is our expense report. We see a few things. First thing, we can see how much we spent this month versus how much we spent last month. We can understand and how the percentage and the total amount of receipts that we've already attached. We can see our top spend categories. We can see our top spenders. We can see automatically generated information. So each time that the card is used, a row here is added automatically without you having to do anything. And it's already categorized automatically, you know, exactly for what merchant. So, you know, was it at Home Depot? Was it for Shell? Something else? How much was it for? Who's the card holder? So we have the card holder name and also the nickname. Because some of our customers, for example, they'll say this is a gas card. It doesn't belong to someone. Or this is the Toyota truck. Okay, so you see exactly who's the holder, for what purpose. You can link it to a job automatically. You see when it was spent, and at the level even of what date, and what time. So I was talking to a customer who says they know that they can't spend on the weekend, right? Or someone shouldn't be spending at 9 o'clock at night. They shouldn't be filling their tank up on a Saturday. So you have full visibility, and by knowing that, by your team knowing that, they're more inclined to sort of follow their company policy. And so you have it here really easily. You can go to the next slide and you can see how it looks from native. So the second someone uses your company card, they get a push notification, says, okay, we see you have a new expense, and then it automatically takes them into that specific expense. And so they just upload a receipt, add, link to a job if they want to, add the extra description or not. And it shows up for them because it's their expenses. And it shows up for the admin or those with the higher permissions that really can see the bird's eye view of everything on the go.
And what expenses can I track better?
Yeah, so this is a great question. And this is interesting because the more I speak to different businesses that work with us, the more I understand the different needs. And we want to think of, we say our business spend is all of our expenses, right? It's not just our technicians in the field, their spend. Like that's a very obvious use case where you want to make sure that if you're paying for someone's gas or inventory, that you're keeping tabs on things. But it goes further than that. When we think of the purchase orders, right? We just made an order for several jobs for equipment and parts from different vendors. So if you had your card on file, right, it would be automatically, if you had your workers expense card on file, it would automatically be listed as an expense on the job. Your marketing expenses, it's as an expense on the expense report. Your marketing expenses is something that people don't always think of when they think of their company expenses, but at the end of the day, this is where your money's going, a large chunk of it. So your Google ads, your Angie, your Thumbtack, when again you put your workers card on as a subscription, the card on file for that subscription, everything's there. You can track everything. You can see how much you're spending month over month, exactly, for all these different sources. And again, you can align that even at the end of the month, take it a step further, understanding how many jobs brought you, were brought in from these sources and how much you paid for them. And the last thing, of course, that I think of is the office expenses, which are those small expenses that we don't always notice, that usually people don't think of when they're doing their bookkeeping. And often those are the expenses that the receipts are also kind of lost for, because you don't think of the refreshments in the kitchen, the office supplies, the special occasions. When you put that all together, all of those aspects, that's your true business spend.
Thank you so much. Strick, my favorite season is coming. Summer is coming. And let's take a bigger picture view here. How would you advise for business owners specifically to get ready for the summer? And not only talking about things that are related to finance. Let's talk about what's in general can help them get ready.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Boris. And we've got a broad array of different trade verticals represented on the call today. One thing before I jump into this specific question is just to zoom out. So we've talked a lot about kind of outbound expense management, what you're spending as a business, what your employees are spending. But the beautiful thing is when we think about simplification and consistency of processes and coordinating and in a lot of cases consolidating a lot of different disparate systems, whether it's a third-party accounting system and the day in, day out operation of your business, is this all happens while we're talking about kind of outbound expense management. This all happens within the WorkEats Pay ecosystem, the suite of services, the consumer payment processing, consumer financing, and we're really kind of double clicking today on managing internal expenses. Back to your question, Boris. So we've got some folks that are on the call that are in HVAC, but really most all of our trade vertical clientele have a seasonality to their business, whether it could be the pollen falling on the trees. I'm down in Austin, Texas, and that happened last week. So we got pressure washers that are dying to get out and wash driveways and windows. But for HVAC, summer is a big season. Peak cooling season is when they make hay. In some cases, 60 to 70% of the revenue coming during peak cooling season. And so what can you do to prepare for that, or whatever seasonal event might be on your calendar where you know that you have an influx of upcoming business? All sorts of cool things that WorkEase is able to do in the background to help you to prepare for that, whether it's looking at that mirror of your business and telling you what happened last year or what is likely to happen in the coming quarter to advise your marketing investment, to advise incentivizing performance pay, which is something that can be done through our platform, to recognize the value that a CSR dispatcher has in booking an appointment, technician doing an assessment or estimate, and then the work being done. All that can happen inside of our system. So really cool insights that drive true insights, accurate insights that drive a business strategy. Orit mentioned earlier about pre-accounting. It's really just one part of forecasting for your business. What do you need to do to be prepared for the next week, the next month, the next quarter, effectively prioritizing revenue opportunities? So, Boris, if you want me to, I can talk a little bit about our automations and some things.
Yeah, I would love to. Just one small comment that I see that someone mentioned.
Please.
Can you try to get the mic closer a bit to you, because apparently your volume is a bit lower than ours?
Sure. I'll try to speak up. I'm not sure if I can get the mic closer, but I can definitely try to speak up if that's helpful.
Cool. Thank you so much. Yeah. So go ahead talk about automations and anything you want to mention as well.
Sure. It's a bit adjacent to the conversation about expense management, but if we've got users on the call today, and I know that we do, our automations are really kind of a foundational platform for reducing that operational friction within the business, whether it's creating an automation to send a text message to a missed call or to send a reminder to pay an unpaid invoice. All the things that used to happen manually in the back office can be automated. You're going to get tired of hearing it, but automate everything but the wrench. We're not going to be able to help you turn the wrench, but we can help you to automate everything in the background that is providing consistency and efficiency for the business. Some really cool things that have happened just over the last quarter that really have been somewhat dependent on our commitment to machine learning and AI really for the last few years we launched Genius Answering, which is a virtual AI-enabled answering virtual assistant. We launched it as a bit of a soft launch, and the appetite from our customer base and from prospects was pretty phenomenal. And so we've seen massive adoption there. What we do with Genius Answering, just to give you the headlines, cliff notes, are basically even your very best CSR is on a call. They're not able to get to every single call. They don't work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so our Genius Answering is there to help to, in the best proxy possible, act as one of your better CSRs. So the reality is you're not able to get to every call. And the fact that this Genius Answering is tied to your CRM, has access to information around technician availability, has access to information around availability on your dispatch board, and can convert opportunities through pure automation to book jobs and which is obviously closer to revenue than just a lead form submission that may go unanswered or unresponded to for 8, 10, 12, 14 hours. So virtual answering, we're in a state now where I think as consumers, homeowners, as consumers, we're more comfortable with communicating with AI, and the increases in efficiency and the decreases in latency and the empathy that the tool is able to provide in terms of consumer experience is really phenomenal. So we can talk more about Genius Answering, but that's one of the most recent launches that really kind of exhibits our commitment to innovation and
Yeah,
automation.
let me add on that. I had the opportunity to see some of our customers talk to it and hear, talk to
Yep.
or it, whatever. But yeah, and the reactions are amazing. Like, first of all, you wouldn't tell the difference between a real person. Like, we're there. That's
Yep.
crazy. Like,
Yep.
I'm pushing the team here to do like reactions video of people communicating with Jessica and Genius Answering in general. It's crazy.
Yeah,
And
we were
we
once in a blue moon, my travel schedule puts me at home. So fortunately, I was able to go to the ACCA conference. It was based in Austin, and we did a lot of those pilot calls on the show floor. And the intonation, the empathy is extraordinary. The feedback from clients was awesome, and our agent's even a little bit funny. I was concerned about the cost of replacing my HVAC equipment, and I asked if she had any tips on the NCAA basketball tournament outcomes, and apologized that she wasn't able to be my betting coach, but wished my team the best of luck in the tournament. So, and she speaks Spanish.
Yeah, that's a new one. So yeah, we do encourage everyone to try it out. You can start a free trial if you have a phone plan. It will be available for more and more soon. But that's a different webinar topic. We're this one, and we're actually nearing towards the end. This went pretty fast, actually. So let's do a quick recap. So we identified the key challenges in expense management for field service businesses. We discussed best practices for addressing these challenges, and we explored how Workies provides solutions to streamline your expense management process. Now, personally, I really like social proof. So I want to share a really quick video with you from one of our customers sharing from his experience.
Everyone who works for me, everyone on our entire team has a Workies card, so we can track daily expenses in real time. It really simplifies what we do. We don't have field techs calling us, hey, I need a card to pay the fuel bill, or I need a debit card to go watch the truck. Our office can go and set budgets on specific cards and sort of track spending on a day-to-day basis. We have specific cards to pay our fuel bill, our disposal bill. Everything is just simplified. It saves us a lot of time, a lot of headaches on the back end. We've been really pleased with Workies cards. It's a card that really simplifies daily operations. Everyone who works.
Thank you, Bill. So let's open up for questions. I see we had some come up during the webinar. We'll address them quickly. Let's start now. So just a second. So how do we see our admin's behavior change after trying the Workies solution? Orit, you want to take this one?
Sorry, can you ask it again? I didn't.
Yeah, sure. How do we see our admin's behavior changes after trying the Workies solution?
Yeah, so it's interesting actually. I spoke to a customer a few weeks ago who said, expenses used to be, or I would say more so, tracking his tech in the field. It was a huge headache because they're very remote. He said the last time he saw one of his technicians was like a year ago. Okay, so they're really, really scattered. And he says, I can't be there to see, if they're really spending something on the job. I can't be there and give them my card personally and have them come pick up. And the only thing that mattered to him was that he could know 100% what day and where someone was spending. And to the point where he said, it has to be only at the gas pump, not the gas store. Said he had a lot of challenges. He called it, he felt like people were stealing from him. He said that people were going to the store. I actually know a different customer that we have that fired 2 people who went in the store and were spending a lot of money in the gas store and not the pump. So both of these cases went to in both of these cases, we saw that the business owners, once they put in the workers card and they knew exactly where the spend is, they didn't have to deal with it anymore. He said he doesn't even go to the expense report because he knows it's there. He has that peace of mind knowing everything's in front of him. But it's so clear for his team that he's set out a company policy and that the cards are restricted in such a way, right? And they know exactly when they can spend and where, that he doesn't need to go into the report. And if they do try, and when they try, like he said, once every 2 weeks, someone will, swipe their card by mistake somewhere else for something else or for, over their budget. And he sees that. And he says, just knowing that gives him that peace of mind of like, okay, I have this under control. Meaning I don't need to track this. I don't need to spend my time on it. It's there, but it's under control. So one is we saw, owners kind of let go of some of that stress that they were carrying before and that headache. That's in one case. I was speaking to someone from Voda also last week who was using the report. She said, it's really simple. All I have to do is, I go at the end of the month, I download the CSV and I give it to my bookkeeper. And then that's it. Like I don't chase anyone around anymore. I don't need to collect and give her, give my bookkeeper a whole bag of receipts and try to explain what job and everything. Just download and send. And so we've seen this across the board with all of our businesses coming back and saying, okay, we've saved money or we've saved time. People can't cheat us anymore. And getting a better handle of their P&Ls. So that's been really nice.
Thank you. I have a question from Alexis. Does the expense card have to come out of the workers' pay, or it can be linked to a secondary account for business that doesn't have capital?
Yeah, so we've disconnected, as I've actually really recently. The expense card doesn't have to have you don't have to have workers' pay to have the expense card. We understood that a lot of our customers that didn't have workers' pay, for whatever reason, were really interested in the expense card and they were limited in this way. And we adjusted it. We worked on it so that we separated the two. So you don't need to have workers' pay. And you fill out, right? It's like any kind of financial product. You fill out your basic KYC, your basic details, and then it's out of your bank account. Meaning you're getting capital up front, okay, but you're repaying it every month from your account, not from workers' pay. Nothing to do with it.
Cool. And Robert asks if the card can be set up to only use during working hours.
So it's not limited at this time for days or hours. You can say the daily spend, but you can't say don't spend on a Saturday or Sunday, or don't spend between before 8 a.m. or after 8 p.m. But you can see it, right? So that's another way to enforce the policy. The exact hour that the spend was made will show up on your report. So if that's what your team knows, then they know that you can see it. It's in front of you.
Cool. Strick, I think I have a question for you. With rising fuel costs being a major concern for field service companies, what reporting features does Workies offer to help owners analyze vehicle-related expenses and identify opportunities to reduce these costs?
Sure. Yeah. One of my passion projects, I've had the privilege of spending 20 years with enterprise fleet management and managed a few million vehicles on behalf of contractors. And so while we don't have a lot of control over the price of the pump, we definitely have control over a couple of different things. And a lot of it's driven by the insights that can be pulled out of Workies. So windshield time's expensive, and finding the right technician to assign the job to is obviously critical. Main role of the dispatcher, prioritizing revenue opportunities, especially as we move into peak seasons for revenue. You're not just doing preventive maintenance calls, you're trying to prioritize those trips that are going to drive the most revenue, increasing average ticket per job, et cetera. But insights around the usage of the fuel expenses, insights around details for job check-in and check-out that are available through Workies to ensure that windshield time, if it's happening in an efficient manner between jobs. All that's available through the platform. Again, don't have control over the pump price, but what we can do is to reduce operational friction and create efficiency in terms of dispatching and optimizing for the jobs done throughout the day.
Interesting. Okay. What's the difference between this and Amex card? I'm guessing that this is basically what we talked about with, the workers card and all the expense management thingy. Reed?
Sure. And actually, another question there that's also asking about rewards and incentives for the business. So totally different in that, an Amex card might give you cash back and rewards. The Amex and Visa and all those cards are looking at how you spend more, right? How do you increase your company spend so that you get more perks? Workies is interested in saving you money and saving you time. There's no advantage to us if our customers spend more. We want to make sure that our customers stay in business and grow as a business. So when we say expense management, we really think of showing you where your spend is going, making sure that you have the controls of the policies that you can enforce to save you money, to save you, to make sure that you have full oversight. And so we take a different approach altogether, okay? I think that if you really calculate the time spent, the money spent, even the technicians that, so many people have told me about having to fire or the time that they spent reimbursing them, chasing down receipts, all of this time. And if you really calculated that and gave it a dollar cost, it would definitely outweigh, the rewards or the cash back that you would get from an Amex. So it's a different approach altogether. And again, Amex is not giving you an overview of where your money is being spent as it relates to your business.
So it's basically Melanie just asked how is it better than Ramp or Amex? So it's different.
Right. So it's different also because we talked now about Amex. Ramp is similar in that, you have a card that you can give your team, has controls, has a credit limit. So same idea, but it's outside of your system, right? So again, going back to when we talked to customers in the survey, we said, how do you manage your expenses? And 60% said they were managing it outside with their CRM. Then you're spending that time trying to understand what your source of truth, trying to align between your job expenses, the technician, right? For what customer, your P&L, of exactly that job. That time at the end of the day of bookkeeping, of tracking that's what we're saving you. The Ramp, WexCard, they're outside of your system. You can't see the full picture, right? You don't have one way to kind of export it out and see and align between the two without error.
Cool, thank you. All the questions that we're not answering in this session, because I know that our time is limited, we will follow up by answering personally. We have your contact details. So apologies for those who will not get answered in this session. Technical questions we'll answer privately. I want to finish with two more small questions. One is, can multiple expense locations be linked to one card?
So you can have as many cards as you want. You have one account, okay? Meaning an account goes out, sets up their expenses, and you can have as many cards as you want. So you could have one person with two different cards. One could be for gas, for example, and one could be their personal card. So it's not related. I'm not sure if that answers the question. And I see the question also about the interest. So there's no interest on the card. It's 0 APR. Yeah.
Cool. And could you pay the workers card monthly from a credit card, or does it have to be a business banking account?
So it's a business banking account. There's obviously for risk reasons, certain standard procedures that are required. As I think with us, it's our partner that we work with. So yeah, it has to be. And I will shout out to the Canadians that are on the call as a fellow Canadian and say, I'm sorry that this is not available in Canada. I hope that it will be. But definitely, I hope you still took a lot from this webinar.
Definitely. Yeah, we have a lot of customers in Canada, so we definitely see you, and we're working to building all the features that are available to the US market, to the Canadian market as well. You're very valuable for us. Okay, so we have like 1 more minute left, so I wanna bring the mic back to you guys, Strick and Orit. Any final thoughts before we end this session? Strick, you want to start, or if you want
Sure.
to something? Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm just excited and thrilled to be on the call today. This is foundational to all of our clients' business, and understanding the way that they make good business decisions that drive good business outcomes through the right mirror on their business is critical. What we've talked about today is a lot about functionality, reducing that, swivel chair data entry, creating convenience, but it's really about putting all business insights into a common platform where the intelligence already lies. And so that's something that I would ask you to really think about. A lot of times, whether it's existing customers realizing, what's new with WorkEase, or new prospective clients migrating over, typically the biggest epiphany, the aha moment that they have is, oh my God, I don't need 7 different platforms. If I can do this, the majority of what I need with an intelligent integration with an accounting platform, it gives me so much speed and the right insights to make good business decisions. Do I need to hire another technician? What did I see last year? Do I need to hire another CSR? What can I do with my existing investment with WorkEase to reduce some of the onus and the pressure of making those business decisions, and creating like a flexibility and elasticity of their business, because it creates more operational efficiency. And so, but no, Boris and Ori, thank you so much for the invitation. Sorry, at the beginning, a little late to the party,
Orit.
but no, it's been great spending time with you guys today. I pass it over to Ori for any additional comments.
I think that, right, if we think, what can people take from this, because we've spent so much time around this topic at WorkEase. We really went in and talked to, I would say, like hundreds of businesses and try to understand their pain points, but really what makes it work. So I would really hope that anyone on this call, whether you decide to use WorkEase or as an expense tool or not, is that you think of, right, your company policies, how you enforce it, and how you save time. What can you do today in your business to save you that time and money? Because it's critical for your growth. If you're, as a business owner, spending a lot of time doing things manually, okay, if you're spending time doing things that you could have kind of automated, that if you have these concerns that we talked about today, then this is a great opportunity to stop for a second and think, how can I do it better? Hopefully we provided some suggestions, and I'm happy if anyone wants to reach out afterwards and, share and brainstorm this. I'm happy to help you on personally after this as well.
Awesome. So thank you, Orit. Thank you, Strick. If we didn't get to your questions, we will follow up with you directly. Once this webinar is done, you will get an automated email with the recording. But again, we will follow up with answering your questions personally. Everyone who got a question here that wasn't answered, we will answer. We'll also share more material you can dive into. As Orit and Strick mentioned, you can always reach out to us. We're available. We're happy to answer your questions. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. We have a lot of exciting more webinars that are coming up in the next couple of months, so stay tuned. Apart from that, again, thank you. Have a really, really good day ahead, and see you in the next one. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim.